Hello class, we're going to begin with Unit 2 about nutrition. Nutrition, as we know, is one of those three life processes: interaction, reproduction, and nutrition. And nutrition is so important. We would die without nutrition, evidently. It consists on producing matter and energy for the cells. Las células necesitan nueva materia para repararse and energía. How do we get that new matter for repairing ourselves and energy? Well, we need to obtain nutrients and oxygen, and we need to expel the waste products. That means that nutrition involves or intervene four different systems: the circulatory system, the digestive system, the excretory system, and the respiratory system. Okay, let's begin with the digestive system. Let's review the parts of the system, the different organs that intervene. First, we have the mouth with the teeth, where teeth crush the food and mix it with the saliva. In the next slide, we will see a table that summarizes what happens in each place. Okay, so we mix the food with the saliva and we swallow with our tongue. It goes through the pharynx and it needs to pass through the epiglottis that separates the esophagus from the larynx. The esophagus, it's part of the digestive system, and the larynx is part of the respiratory system. So if it goes to the larynx, we're gonna choke. When water goes through the other pipe, we cough and we have a really hard time. Cuando se nos va el agua por el otro lado, when water goes through the other pipe, is because the epiglottis was open. Understand? Okay, so after it travels from the pharynx, it travels to the esophagus. That is a tube that connects to the stomach, okay? And it's a soft tube that can change shapes, and it just travels down to the stomach. The stomach down here is this bag. You can see the arrow that points to the stomach, and in the stomach, food is mixed with gastric acids. The gastric juices are acid, and they break down the protein. En el estómago, los ácidos de los jugos gástricos, the gastric juices, are going to break down our food, okay? Then after it's in the stomach, it travels to the small intestine. And in the small intestine, it's going to receive bile to break out the fat. And the bile is produced by the liver, which is another organ that is part of the digestive system. The liver produces bile. La bilis is a green liquid, it's very bitter, and it's accumulated inside the gallbladder, okay? In Spanish, la bilis se produce en el hígado, se acumula en la vesícula biliar y es un líquido verde muy amargo, que si vomitáis muchas veces, alguna vez igual lo habéis tenido la desgracia de verlo. So bile reaches the small intestine, breaks down the fat, and in the small intestine, the capillaries absorb the nutrients and part of the water. And the nutrients and the water pass inside into the blood, where they travel to the rest of the body. Okay, that food, after it loses the nutrients, is undigested food. La comida que no hemos digerido travels inside the large intestine, el intestino grueso. The large intestine is where the undigested food is lumped to form feces. Se pierde el agua y se transforma en las heces, which are accumulated inside the rectum and expelled through the anus. Then let's see this table that I have created to help you all learn what happens in which part. In the mouth, we have a process which is mixing the food with the saliva. The product of the food with the saliva, we call it the bole, the digestive bole, el bolo alimenticio. And the bole is the stage in which we are located is called digestion. Okay, in the stomach, the bole is mixed with the digestive juices, con los jugos gástricos, and the end product is called the chyme, el quimo. Remember and notice here how I have underlined the letter M to match the M from stomach. In the stomach, with an M, we have the chyme, with an M. That chyme travels into the small intestine. So the chyme receives the bile that is produced by the liver and stored and expelled from the gallbladder. And the chyme plus the bile is called the chyle. Again, I have underlined the letter L. L from small, L from chyle, el kilo. And el kilo is what contains the nutrients that are going to be absorbed. So this stage we call absorption. In the large intestine, the chyle, without the nutrients and without the water, it's transformed into feces. And this stage of the digestion is called the elimination. So within digestion, we have actually three stages: digestion, absorption, and elimination. In the digestion, we need to notice that food is transformed into feces, but it first is transformed into the ball, then into the chyme, then into the chyle, then into the feces. Okay? Next, we go to the respiratory system because its nutrients need oxygen in order to produce energy. And how do we get that oxygen? Well, first we have the mouth and the nose, the first two organs in the respiratory system, the mouth and the nose. Air enters through those two orifices. Those two holes, they have hair, they are wet, so that air enters our respiratory system and it's warm and it's wet. Okay? It's also clean. That's the reason that you have hairs inside your nose. Again, we have the pharynx that we share with the digestive system, but we don't want our stomach to fill up with air. So we have the epiglottis that separates the esophagus from the larynx. Now air needs to travel inside the larynx. That is a tube where we can find the vocal cords. If you put your fingers on your throat, and when you talk, you know the vibrations, those are your vocal cords. The vocal cords, what happens there? Air passes and they vibrate. That's why your fingers feel this vibration. Air travels down the larynx and down the trachea. The trachea, you see this tube with little rings con algunos anillos que parece un tubo de la ducha. That's the trachea. Those are U-shaped tube that connects to the bronchi. The bronchi, los bronquios in Spanish, there are two branches that just split the trachea and travel to the lungs, okay? And they're gonna branch in these little trees down here. The trees, you can see inside the lungs, there are kind of tubes looking like a tree or like roots que parecen raíces dentro de los pulmones. Those are the bronchioles. Okay, and then the air travels down the bronchioles, which are smaller tubes, and they reach the lungs. And the lungs are two large bags. They are made up of millions of alveoli. The alveoli are tiny little sacs where gas exchange happens. What is gas exchange? El intercambio gaseoso. Gas exchange. Well, water through capillaries reach the alveoli, and in there they take oxygen and they expel CO2, carbon dioxide, el dióxido de carbono. And how do we inhale air with oxygen and exhale air with carbon dioxide? We use a muscle that pulls down the lungs to inhale and pulls up on the lungs to exhale. That muscle is called the diaphragm. Okay, so that we have seen how the oxygen and the nutrients get to the blood. So we're going to have a circulatory system that takes that oxygen and those nutrients through the circulatory system to every single cell. The main organ in the circulatory system is the heart. In humans, the heart is divided into 4 chambers, cuatro cavidades. The atria, which are located above in the upper part of the heart. En la parte superior, las aurículas. In the upper part, the atria. And in the lower part, the ventricles, los ventrículos. Atria and ventricles. Okay, so the heart pumps with systole and diastole. The heart bombea sangre, and that blood travels through blood vessels. And those blood vessels, esos vasos sanguíneos, blood vessels, are called arteries. If they leave the heart and they leave it through the ventricles, they are called veins. See, they go towards the heart and they enter through the atrium, okay? And I again have given you a trick to help you remember. I've underlined A for arteries because they travel away, arteries away from the heart, veins van al heart. And then those veins and those arteries are divided into smaller and smaller vessels until they're called capillaries, los vasos capilares, which are tiny little tubes that reach all cells. That's the reason that when you get a tiny scratch, you start bleeding. Okay? Because you're breaking capillaries, you're not breaking main veins, thank God. Okay, so what travels through the blood vessels? Blood cells and plasma. Plasma is the liquid, and the cells in the blood are called blood cells. We have 3 different types of blood cells. The red blood cells, they carry oxygen using hemoglobin. Las células, los glóbulos rojos son los que llevan el oxígeno a través de la hemoglobina. Then we have the white blood cells, which are part of the immune system. Los glóbulos blancos, parte del sistema inmunológico, and the platelets, las plaquetas. They are going to clot the blood and they're going to fix when you make a scratch, they're going to create a scab. Es lo que te va a hacer una costra, las platelets. Okay, so in the drawing, in the figure, you can see how complex the circulatory system is. We actually have, as you can see here in section number 4, a double circuit. Between the lungs and the heart, you have a system of blood vessels. You have blood vessels that take the CO2 rich blood to the lungs, and they return the oxygenated blood to the heart. So we have a circuit that travels from the heart to the lungs, leave the CO2, and from the lungs to the heart, bring O2, bring oxygen. And then we have a second circuit that pumps the blood from the heart to the rest of the body. So we take oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to the body, and every cell leaves their waste and their CO2 to travel back to the heart, so the heart can pump it to the lungs. Okay, the fourth system is what do we do with those waste products. We have seen how we have solid waste, but also liquid waste, because it's carried in the plasma. And also we have gas waste. We have the CO2 that is produced in our cells. Okay, let's go orderly. First, the solid waste is made up of undigested food, la comida sin digerir, la comida a la que se le han quitado los nutrientes y el agua, undigested food, without nutrients and without water. It passes through the small intestine, and these feces, they still contain a lot of water, and in the large intestine, most of this water is absorbed back into the body. And the solid waste that remains forms solid lumps that are called feces. The feces are stored in the rectum and finally are expelled through the anus. We have seen this part in the digestive system. Okay, but it's part of the excretory system. Then we have the liquid waste, in which the blood passes through the kidneys. We have many renal veins and renal arteries, las arterias y venas renales, and the blood it's filtered in the kidneys. Kidneys filter blood. Los riñones filtran la sangre. Kidneys filter the blood. What do? They remove the extra water and they remove the waste products that have been produced by our cells. Okay, and this water with the waste products is urine. This urine produced in the kidneys travels to the bladder, a la vejiga, the bladder, where it's stored. And finally, the urine is expelled through the urethra, a través de la uretra, in the urethra. We also have sweat glands. The sweat glands in the dermis expel water with waste. It's mainly for cooling, but it's also part of the excretory system because we can expel waste through our sweat. And also we have seen that our cells produce CO2. When cells perform nutrition, cuando una célula hace la función vital de la nutrición, produces CO2, carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide travels through the blood to the heart, from the heart to the lungs, and the lungs receive the CO2 from the blood and has to be expelled. And it's expelled with our breath, through our exhalation, when we exhale. Cuando exhalamos, estamos liberando nuestros residuos gaseosos. Remember, it's not only solid waste, it's also liquid waste in urine, sweat, and also gas waste in our exhalation. Okay, now let's see the effects of a good nutrition. Why is healthy food important? We need to eat nutritious food. We need to eat vitamins because they are essential nutrients. We cannot produce our own vitamins, and without them we can get sick. Nos ponemos enfermos if we don't consume vitamins. They have different functions. Vitamin A, la vitamina A, for our eyesight, para nuestra vista. Vitamin C is good for the immune system and also for our teeth. So different vitamins are used for different functions. So we need to eat nutritious food. Junk food, we consider the food to be junk food when it has high levels of sugar, of salts, or of fat. Si tiene demasiado azúcar, demasiada sal o demasiada grasa, es junk food, es comida basura. And also healthy food, comida sana, cuando ingerimos las proporciones adecuadas. Eso es una comida sana, right proportions. 50% vegetables and fruit, 25% grains, like wheat, like oats, like even macaroni, that's a grain, bread, and 25% protein, meat, fish, milk, eggs. All those kinds of food contain protein. And also eating fat and sweets very moderately, because vegetables have fats, grains have fats, the food that contains proteins already carry fats. So many of our foods already have sugar and has fat in them, okay? How can we make sure that we're eating healthy food? By reading food labels. We need to read the composition of our food. That's the list of ingredients. The first ingredient in the list is the one in greatest amount. If I take a can of Coca-Cola, I read the first ingredient is water. That means that Coca-Cola is mostly water. Understand? If I read the label of my pizza and I read harina, I read flour, that's what contains the most of. Next, I need to read the nutritional data to see if those ingredients, it's part of a nutritious food, una comida nutritiva. So I need to read that it doesn't have too much salt, that it doesn't have too many saturated fats. Las grasas saturadas are known as bad fats, las grasas malas. And also I need to control my intake of calories, make sure that I'm eating enough calories to have energy, but not too many. And this will be all We will review this in class, and if you have any questions, please contact me or send me a message.